And what was interesting is I still remember the day I heard him speak. It was at a principal's retreat. And it was after my first year of being a principal. Now, because of my master's degree in human development education, I had in the back of my mind not a framework, but a philosophy. And then I heard Dr. Comer speak. And what he did, I believe, was revolutionize a framework for how you put it all together. School planning and management team, SSST, you know, the different teams interfacing with each other, you know, the emphasis on consensus. I remember having to come face to face one day as a principal with the Comer process of no faults. And in those days, we had the local authority to make decisions. We had our school improvement teams. But the principal always retained 1% of the power. So the principal had 51%, everybody else had 49%. And I remember being in a Comer school, if we're dealing with the concept of consensus, I made the decision that it would be 50-50. And I figured, well, you know, everybody still knows I'm the principal, and they're not going to step on my trigger points, and I won't step on their trigger points. Well, one of the things that happened was very fascinating. It was an incredible dynamic. I had to come face to face with that philosophy because when I first went to the school, there were discipline issues. It's an elementary school, and about 32 youngsters a year were being suspended, which I thought was pretty high. And where much of it was happening was in the cafeteria, where there would be food fights. And I remember I said Angela Robinson came in many years later and saw the napkins going across the laps. So over those initial years, we put some tighter controls into play in the cafeteria while we were teaching social skills. And at one point, my staff came to me and they said they wanted me to relax some of the rules and depend more on now the social developmental skills that we had taught our youngsters. And I remember being panic-stricken when they came to me because when there's chaos in a cafeteria, all the discipline referrals in the afternoon that will come out of class can be enormous. And they knew that, though, because this is also part of that dynamic on the teams. So they came and knew that I would be confronted with this, oh my gosh, kind of thing. And they said, but we want to give you some choices. And they knew what my triggers were, and I knew what their triggers were. And this consensus piece, they said, here's what we would like to do. We would like to go out and to take a committee and look at some other models. And then we'd like to come back and share with you and say, could we collectively decide which model we would like to use to change the dynamic and let the social skills emerge without the adults controlling the environment? I said, okay, but I was very skeptical. And so then they came back and it was decided mutually how we would do that. And what they also said, knowing again that it's a consensus thing, they said, let's do it for 2 weeks as a pilot and see how it goes. And they knew that that was my comfort level. And I knew that they were reaching out to me. I said, that sounds fair, let's do that. And I was just so scared of what was going to happen during those 2 weeks that it would all fall apart. And they were so energized, and so were the children, because we had taught them about social skills as part of their development. And everybody was so energized to make it work. And I would wander in, because I'd say, well, if this isn't going to work, I don't want it to go too far. I was so amazed myself to see how things had evolved and that it became now dominated by the children and their social skills. And it was beautiful to watch. And it was during that period of time that Angela Robinson came in and was remarking and saying, is this staged? And with pride, I could see how I had evolved. And I said, oh no, this happens all the time. That's an interesting story, you know, and it gets lost over time and how young people can take control, and it doesn't have to be the adults who are taking control. So rewarding to see the fruits of our labor and seeing the power of what Dr. Comer's vision as a child psychiatrist was able to do for kids. The results were staggering, and in my school, Columbia Park, we went from being one of the lowest achieving school districts with significant discipline problems, a lot of suspensions, and no PTA, to being a school that was the first school to win the National Blue Ribbon Award from, at that time, President Reagan, so that's telling you how long ago it was, as well as the U.S. Department of Education. It went on to be named as one of the 10 best elementary schools in America by Child Magazine. PBS, the McNeil-Lehrer Reports, did a 2-hour documentary about 4 schools in America that were making a difference, and they chose us because we were a Comer school. The documentary was called Learning in America, Schools That Work, and Roger Mudd followed us around for a week. It was, in the early days, the emphasis on social skills was extraordinarily different, and the social development. I remember Angela Robinson was with Fox Television. She was a local anchor from WTTG. And she did a piece on us and came out to film it. And she walked into the cafeteria and she watched the youngsters take their napkins and put it across their laps. And she got me to the side and she said, "Is this staged? Because I'm here as to talk to the kids." And she went out onto the playground and watched the different dynamics on the playground. You know, the respect, the feelings between young people for each other, the way the staff interacted with each other and with children. All of that came from the development of the program from Yale here with Dr. Comer. It was a privilege to be affiliated with it. It was a highlight of my career when I think back on those early days, although now I've been a superintendent in 2 different districts, all very high-achieving districts. The emotional high for me was being principal at Columbia Park and being involved in the school development program. Days that I'll never forget.